Hey guys, so we're back into DIY mode, and today's project is a washing machine, dishwasher, washing machine, clothes washing machine that became unable to open. It would not open and it would not drain. All it would do was just grind the motor trying to pump water out of itself, and that was otherwise the door was locked. Okay, I just hit the power button and turned it off. But anyway, I've already solved the issue, so I'm not really in a position to recreate the problem, and I'm not even going to try to do that, obviously. But it was locked. The door was locked here, which it wouldn't open, and the only light on the entire machine that was visibly working was, where is it? Right here, right here, right there at the top. Door locked. Okay, that top right there. That's the only red, slowly flashing light that was the only thing working on the whole machine. Right? Nothing else would work. Couldn't push play. Couldn't push the power. Nothing. Rotate the handle. Try different button presses. What I saw online, some things to do to reset. Nothing was working. So, any number of things could be the problem, right? So, first and foremost, you think, well, it's not draining, right? So, the washing machine thinks that there's still water inside. So, the door won't open because it doesn't want to, precipitate a flood in your laundry room. So, you go back to the drain here that, your water drain. You take this out, right? You take this out, you get a bucket, put a bucket on the floor here, which I already did. Trust me, and try to drain get gravity to work. It's magic of draining the water out. Out the drain hose here, going down. So you put this all the way down as low as possible to the ground. Let gravity do its thing, sort of a siphoning effect, right? And a marginal amount of water came out. It wasn't a lot. It was, well, here, the bucket's still here. So, what do we got here? We literally got 4 ounces of water that came out of there. So, that's clearly not the problem. At least if it is, that's another issue altogether. If it's still full of water, and that's all that would come out of it. But that's all that came out. And so, figuring out what else to do. Well, the next thing you do is start taking things apart to see, where the problem is. So the first thing you want to try is, in my case, which was the resolution, was to take off the top, right? Here's the top, right? Here's the top of the machine. It's literally held on by 3 screws. Let me see if I can just, show. Well, I'll tell you what. Here's the back. So it's literally, there was a screw here, here, and here. That's the only 3 screws I had to take off the back of the machine here, right here at the very top, right? There's there you see the holes, those 3 that line up with the 3 that you just saw in the lid. There's only a screw in one of those 3 holes. Then there's one here in the middle. There, where are we at? There. This is close quarters here. There we go. Here we go. Working upside down here, folks. And then there's over here on the other side. Okay. But there's 3 screws, right, to take out. And what I used this tool here, this little ratcheting screwdriver tool. Shout out to Cobalt, rocking, getting the job done, and the tip there, and so 3 screws to remove. That's it. And in fact, just so you know, I'm telling this straight. There are the 3 screws that came out. So, pretty simple stuff, folks. You don't need a drill, an electric, you know, screwdriver or drill screwdriver. That's probably overkill for something that simple. Just taking out 3 screws manually, boom, boom, boom. Then you simply wiggle the top, this panel, just lift up along the back edges of it, basically on either side, and just wiggle it off. It just fits right, as you can see, it just fits right along here, the front edge. So you just wiggle it and pull it right off. It slides right off. And pull back towards the back of the machine, and it slides right out of place, and then boom, you just set it down there. So once you get in here, we got a problem, obviously. The light's on, the red light's on, nothing was working, and the door won't open, right? So you got to get this door open. So the cool thing here is that there's a release, and I want to see if I can get enough light down in here. Get you a screwdriver, or the flashlight going here. If you see down in there, see that little, here, if I can reach it, if I can. There we go. It's awkward, folks. See the little white plastic, component there with the wires leading into it. There's a little circle on top that's very visible. Looks like a, like a cough drop. Yeah, that thing. It's literally a lever that you just pull up on, and I'm not going to try to do it because my hand will be in the way and you won't see me do it. But you can pull up on it just very simply, and it literally just unlocks the door. It's that simple. You just pull up on that little circle, it unlocks the door, and boom, the door comes open. Because this is what it looks like on the in the jamb of the lock. That little component releases the catches inside of there. Well, that pulling up on that little ring that I just showed you releases that mechanism, and then boom, door comes open. So then, what I found was, in this case, was a couple of blankets that were really heavy material, and they were soaked with water. They became too heavy for the machine after probably double-digit loads of washings that were done today. We'll talk to wifey about that. And it just got a little overworked, and the last 2 blankets were just so waterlogged and heavy that the machine just gave in. Said, I quit. Please give me a break. So it locked itself up. So I got the top off. I pulled up on the ring, released the door, and because I had already worked on the process of possibly emptying out the water in the bucket, which I showed before, to make sure there was no flood of water or anything coming out of there. I mean, obviously, if it had been a bunch of water in there, I could have quickly reclosed the door if water started leaking out of it as soon as I started to pull on it. But that didn't happen. So I opened the door, and you can see it's dry as a bone in there, really, after I got the blankets out, which I'm not going to go through the effort of putting that on the video. But trust me, there were 2 blankets in there that looked like they could keep Frosty the Snowman warm. And they were huge and waterlogged and weighed about, I don't know, felt like they weighed about 20 pounds each. Probably exaggerating there a bit. But they were ridiculous, and the machine was not happy about it, obviously. So that's what kept it locked and closed and unable to function. So took the top off, pulled the button, pulled the ring, put a little white ring, boom, got the door open, no water inside, we're good to go. And so that's what's up. So I'm just going to put the lid back on and, run it to make sure everything's working, but I'm sure it is. I've already tested all the buttons and everything comes on like it's supposed to. So, So before you get too weirded out and think that you've got to replace some parts or order some things and do this, that, and other thing. By the way, this locking mechanism on the door, this piece right here, this whole mechanism could be faulty. So in another scenario, you might have had to, or I might have had to, or anyone might have had to remove this screw and then there's another one down here. Those two, and then release that mechanism. Look at me hitting buttons. Release that mechanism from here. So, and that whole white component that you see there with the little ring on top and everything, all that could be taken out. And the wires are hooked up by like a plug. So you're not splicing anything together or anything. It literally is just a plug that plugs into the white door locking mechanism. So you just unplug it. Looks like you unplug a toaster out of the wall. So no biggie. If you had to have done that, that is possible that it could have been that, but that was not the problem in this case, thankfully. And the fix was a lot simpler in this case. So that's what's up. I hope you find this video helpful. Give a like, subscribe, comment below. I've got a bunch of other home DIY projects that I'm loading up, and just let me know what you think about this. Hopefully it helps you solve your problem. Until next time.